So welcome to Built to Scale e-commerce show by Atkins Agency, and today we'll be interviewing Claude Thomas, and named one of the top 50 influencers in e-commerce in the UK. And she is the best-selling author, international keynote speaker, and hosts an award-winning eCommerce Masterplan podcast. I'm super happy to have her today, and she's presently working on focusing on helping e-commerce companies to plan, develop, and grow their successful e-commerce businesses. And in this episode, we will be diving deep into e-commerce retention methods, traffic sources, and most frequent challenges all e-commerce businesses face. So, Flora, super happy to have you here.
It's great to be here, Darius. Thank you.
Maybe you could quickly introduce more about yourself and how did you actually get into the e-commerce marketing space?
Sure. So I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now. I ended up in the industry as an escape route from the world of banking, because I was working for Barclays, which is one of the biggest four banks here in the UK, working in their retail marketing department, and I didn't like it. So I applied to lots of marketing jobs, and the one I got was working for a UK retailer, high street retailer, who don't exist anymore. But at the time, they had a thriving mail order catalog business, which is what I was hired to work on. They had their own website and on the IBM WebSphere platform, if anyone can remember that. And we also had about 120 stores around the UK. So back in 2004, 2005, 2006, we were doing omnichannel retail. So yeah, plenty of challenges back then. And then from there, I became head of e-commerce at a group of mail order companies, then launched a marketing agency that I ran for 10 years. And these days, I mainly speak and write. So it's all about the podcast, the books, and events.
Okay. And I know that through the career, you kind of helped hundreds of e-commerce businesses to solve their marketing problems, grow their sales, etc. Maybe you could share, some of the commonalities that you're seeing across the board, because I believe there are common trends, but majority of the mistakes that the owners are doing is the same.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to end up focusing on the strategy for people, because that tends to be where people are not doing things as well as they could be. I find that a lot of the problems or a lot of the missed opportunities, which is what I try and help people find, are because people have tried one thing with something and then ignored it. So they boosted a post on Facebook and it didn't generate £1 million in sales, so they stopped bothering with Facebook ads. And it's like, well, there's about 1 million strategies you could use on Facebook ads. You've got to test and trial, and none of those strategies work great unless you optimize it. So it's often that the choice of channel and then the giving up on channels too frequently tend to be the problems I see the most.
Okay, that's very interesting. And how do you recommend to solve them?
Well, I suppose not giving up straight away is a good good starting point. So, dive in properly, which might mean that, you're going to do research before you start your testing process. It might mean that you're going to outsource to an agency, or you're going to get a specialist freelancer on board who's got that bit of experience that can help you start off that bit more quickly. And then the other side of it is to keep optimizing, which is my own personal mantra, and is something which I think we could all do with doing more of. It's very exciting to chase the bright, the shiny, the new. But actually, there's usually a lot more performance improvement to be gained by looking at something that's working okay for you even, and then analyzing what's working well that you could do more of, or what's working poorly that you could either stop doing and spend the money, the time, and the effort on something else, or that you can tweak and improve to make it actually deliver for you. And the biggest problems I see is people who've, like I said, who just aren't doing those two things. They aren't either doing something they should, or they're not optimizing something they're already doing.
Yeah, because this is kind of common lessons that we also learn, by working with multiple clients. The big part of what you do is strategy help. It's not just marketing channels, etc., but strategy, because this is kind of majority of people are struggling with. And I heard, you talking about optimizing things, etc. And it was kind of I guess, reminds me a bit of your banking background, right? Because there was certain commonality there about mastering the numbers and being, attentive to details. And maybe we could talk more about it, because I know, you help people also to optimize the websites, etc. Maybe you could, talk more about the process of optimizing the website.
Sure. Well, I should clarify two things. When I was in banking, I was a marketer, not a banker. So please
Hmm.
don't suggest I was ever
Okay,
a
sorry.
banker. And secondly, I don't do a lot with websites because most of what I do is about the marketing activity. But when I do get involved with a website, it's usually, those first basic steps of taking a look at it and going, that's a missed opportunity, that's a missed opportunity. So drawing on my 15 plus years of experience in the sector and what I see by looking at lots of things, by talking to lots of people who really know their stuff when it comes to improving websites, and look at, quick wins. Have you got social proof on the homepage? When I land on your website, does it even look like an e-commerce site? Does it look like I can buy something? Do I get what you sell? And those kind of key basic tenets as you go through, which is always a good place to start when you're improving a site. But the voice of the customer is considerably more important than my voice when it comes to improving your website. So, getting into things like user testing and that whole myriad of stuff, which I do not do, but I know lots of great people who do, and I have a lot of respect for. That's where you really want to go. Whether you're using algorithms by putting an on-site search system in place or on-site personalization, or whether you're actually getting into the proper nitty-gritty of those tests and that analysis, that's definitely going to be something that's going to help people. But as I said, website optimization, not my core area of expertise.
Okay, and maybe we can, talk about some other areas then about, where people often also like miss, because while as an agency we are focusing a lot of, let's say, marketing channels like Facebook, AdWords, etc., we are kind of like main drivers. Maybe some channels where there could be like a missed opportunity or a low hanging fruit for a lot of, let's say, beginnering e-commerce owners, or maybe more advanced even.
I think the two it surprises me people aren't doing more with, and that we're not hearing more about at the moment, are email marketing and Google Ads. On the email marketing front, I these days I'm now coming across really cool, really clever e-commerce businesses that are doing great things, but they're not doing much with email marketing, which when it's the only communication channel apart from post, direct mail, that you actually own. It's the only one
Yeah.
that you control. There's not a big algorithm deciding whether you can do it or not. It's not a platform you could get kicked off tomorrow. It's something you have. And it amazes me people aren't embracing that more thoroughly. And it also amazes me how many people who do email are just sending the same message to everyone every week. Yes, it makes money, but there's so much more you could do. So that's my email marketing rant. When it comes to Google Ads, to me, Google ads are as sexy as Facebook ads, but they just don't get the press. I don't know whether that's because Google are not as good at driving their partner program as Facebook are, or because there's not pictures, so people don't get excited about it, or because, the Facebook ad platform really stole a march on Google because it was so easy to start playing with it. You could run an ad without really even realizing you run an ad, whereas Google is a bit more difficult. Facebook ad, you can get results in a couple of weeks, whereas Google, it usually takes a couple of months to properly optimize. So I can see a little bit of why, but on Facebook, you're interrupting someone and going, hey,
Yeah.
come and get excited by me. Whereas on Google, you're going, oh, you want me? Yes, I'm here. It's like,
Yeah.
It befuddles me that people don't talk more about Google Ads. So I think there remains quite a big missed opportunity there, because it's a really cool ad platform. There's a lot you can do with it these days. But it just seems to have lost out on the PR front to Facebook at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely loving Google. To be frank, Google brings much better returns than Facebook ads, and especially if you're like beginning business, etc. Google's the the place to go, because like with Facebook ads, success chance is way lower compared to Google, just because what you mentioned, right? On Facebook, basically you have to wave yourself and show it to the people. Where on Google, actually people coming to you and looking for service like yours. The only downside for Google, what I'm seeing from practical experience, etc., is scalability, right? There are like clients that we can push like 2-3 million a month for Facebook ads and sales. With Google, like 500,000 a month is already kind of challenging. Of course, it depends on the niche products. Yeah.
Now, that's the thing, is that with Google, you've got to wait for the person to actually want you.
Yeah.
So then you start looking at further up the funnel, what can we do to make more people search for us? which then can lead you into Facebook ads, can lead you into PR, can lead you into advertising and so forth. It's yeah, I mean, it's like I'm someone I advise at the moment. They got their TV ads going live very shortly for Christmas. So we're busy at the moment, or I'm busy at the moment, kind of giving them advice on how to make sure their Google ads are ready for the TV campaign.
Yep.
You know, so we're bidding on their brand name. So we're bidding on key phrases from the ads. So we're making sure that those ads are turned on in the places where the TV ads are going to be shown, because of course that's geographical as well. So we're prepping that to make sure we make the most of the TV ad spend, and we don't have people failing to find the brand when they get to Google because they've seen the TV ad and they're like, oh, we want them, but they don't see us because they look at the ads that are above us, or they miss our natural listing. We just want that as big a chance as possible for them to click through. We want that kind of collateral space on the search results page. So yeah, there's ways and means of increasing that Google ad spend, but it probably, running a TV ad to improve your Google ads is probably going a bit extreme, but that kind of stuff, that big brand awareness,
and you need
help.
it.
Yeah.
At a certain point you need it, and this is, to be frank, this is kind of like very similar to what we are starting to do with one of our clients for this Christmas. So basically he's planning to do a media buy for 100K, right? Just buying across different press articles, etc. And then we are planning to retarget with people. Essentially how we are planning to retarget with people by giving them some sort of special offer, incentivizing people to go to certain URL and then pixeling them up. Right, so it's a bit different through Facebook Prism, but what you mentioned with Google Ads, I think it could totally be done similar. Of course, like press release is a bit different because you have people's attention. The press will not kind of vanish, etc., like a TV ad or something. So it's a bit different, right? But at the same time, same principle in a way. And
exactly.
Yeah, and have you noticed like any changes in marketing patterns or approach during this pandemic? Because so many things have changed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if we talk about the majority of people, certainly the online only retailers who've seen these huge uplifts in sales, 400, 300, 500%, 1,000% increases, year on year on sales is not unusual. And it's been interesting to talk to businesses and to work with businesses who have experienced that big uplift and then gone, stock. What are we going to do?
Yeah,
we're running low on stock. How do we now do this? Because I'm a marketer and I'm used to more. I'm used to spending all my time getting more from my ads, getting more from my email, and now I'm like, the warehouse and the call center is screaming at me to stop. And I think, obviously there's some companies have just gone, we're going to double down and deal with the back order issue. I had a great guy on the podcast, episode went live a couple of weeks ago, from CrossNet, Chris. He was talking about how they went, people want our product, we are getting all of them to buy. We are doubling our ad spend until the CPA isn't there anymore. Oh, that's cost per acquisition. Anyone wondering what I'm talking about. And then, but most, I think, have kind of gone, right, how do we balance this? Which, to answer your question, I think has led to a lot more focus of marketing teams on the softer marketing and cleverer marketing. We've seen resource be shifted towards social media, towards content, towards automated campaigns that are more about customer service than they are about driving sales. So you can, by improving that post-purchase campaign, you can take a lot of the pressure off the customer services team by saying, this is what's happening. It will be with you. Please stop calling us. Reminding them that the customer service team are now having to work from home, and bringing that humanity into it. So I think it's been an interesting lesson in giving some more focus to the softer side of our marketing. I think the businesses that have done that will emerge from this stronger because they've taken some time to actually build relationships rather than just go buy all the time. And then looking forwards, I think what this has led to, because, who can predict what's going to happen in the coming months? In America, you've got the election happening, which is going to send CPMs, i.e. your cost of advertising, insane. It's a huge distraction point for everyone in the US. I mean, anyone who had a marketing campaign launching when the presidential debates were on, terrible move. No one's interested. All they care about is what those two are doing to each other. And then you've got, are we going back into lockdown? What's going to happen Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Amazon putting Prime Day in October, which changes the consumer behavior element. We've got potential redundancies, potential recession, but yet we've got people at home bored, wanting to spend money on stuff. It's almost impossible to predict. So what I've seen people doing, and I've advised people to do, is to come up with what I would call a levers list. So it's like, if we have to cut sales by 10% because we're running out of stock, what exactly are we going to turn off? What exactly are we going to do? Which I would take, in the case of, Facebook ads or Google ads, I would take kind of to campaign level budget, not individual ads. You don't need to write the ads yet, but it's kind of like a cheat sheet of, what do I do if we need to knock 10% off sales? What do I do if we need to add 10% off sales? So it's when you're in the thick of that, because October, November, December, these are going to be crazy months, where we're going to be very reactionary. We're going to be looking at our reports more frequently. So I think if you've got this kind of levers plan outlined, then when the boss is going, the warehouse are imploding, we have to reduce the number of orders, you know exactly the best way to do that to maximize profit. And to keep the customers happy. And then on the flip side, if you need to suddenly increase sales because you've suddenly seen a dip and you now don't think you're going to clear the stock before Christmas, you know exactly what you're going to turn on to, again, maximize the profit. Just a little bit of prep, like an afternoon of prep, and you'll be so much better sorted to go through what's coming up for Q4.
And one of the interesting ideas I heard from your side was about kind of like humanizing your brand, right? And this is kind of like one of the concepts that I'm a huge believer in. And over the last 6 months, I was like recommending for our clients, like film a few videos of you just taking a phone and talking to customers who bought your product, showing, manufacturing facilities, telling stories of people working in the business, and what type of crazy results is brought in remarketing. But you have seen like 20-30% lift in returns on ad spends through these ads. Because people are relating better with a brand, and nobody really buys from a logo, right, these days. And looking 5 years ahead, I think, this is the go-to move. And what you mentioned, with it being even adding, saying that, hey, our people are struggling right now, we can't deal with it. We are really sorry, and we'll make it, solve a problem. But this is what makes the difference, right? Because people know that you care about them, event, and it creates human connection. Event almost always returning in more repeated buyers. And kind of this is where I guess we go into our next topic, right? Because after you acquire the traffic and acquire the first customer, real businesses build up, regular buyers and repeated buyers. Because technically, to sell to a person first time costs 10 times as much as to do a repeated sale, which is huge. And like emails, of course, kind of like place into the role. And I was taking a look at your customer's master plan, right? So maybe you could expand more about it and what are like 4 or 5 stages there.
Yeah, sure. So the Customer MasterPlan Model is in my book, eCommerce Marketing, How to Get Traffic That Buys to Your Website, which is #1 bestseller on Amazon for e-commerce. It has been pretty much since November, which blows my mind. So thank you, anyone out there who's bought it. You make me very happy. But the model you're talking about, for those of you watching this video, you can just about see it there, but I'll explain it for everyone out there who's listening or watching. And the Customer MasterPlan Model is e-commerce drilled down to 6 circles and a number of arrows. So going across from left to right, you've got the 6 circles, each of which represents a customer relationship level, which is the level of which someone out there in the world has a relationship with your business. And everyone in the world is somewhere in this model. So you've got the world over on the far left, and people who are out there in the world, they may have heard of your brand, they probably haven't as a percentage, but they've never made it as far as your website. So then we have our visitors, that's our next circle in. And the visitors have made it to your website, pretty easy to define. Next one in from that, we have our inquirers, who are the people who've given you their email address, so you can do some marketing to them. You can build that relationship. You can do all that great stuff about building the humanity in that Darius just mentioned. then we start making money. Then it starts getting properly exciting. So we have our first time buyers, which are people who've only bought from us once. And as Darius rightly says, that's just the beginning of you making money out of these people. If you're lucky enough to make a profit on the first order, congratulations. Most e-commerce businesses make their money on the second, third, fourth order. So after our first time buyers, we have our repeat buyers, who people who bought more than once. And then we have our regular buyers, who are the people who just buy and buy and buy. And boy, do we love them. Now, between each of those circles, we have an arrow, which is stages 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So stage 1 is between the world and visitors. Stage 2 is between visitors and inquirers. Stage 3, turning inquirers into first-time buyers. Stage 4, first-time buyers into repeat buyers. You get the idea. What I should say at this point is I have absolutely no problem at all if you manage to turn a visitor into a first-time buyer without becoming an inquirer in the meantime. They are perfectly welcome to skip the inquirer box, but it's an important part of the overall model. And then there's another couple of arrows there which are reminders about increasing money, decreasing numbers of people you're talking to in the conversation, but I'll leave those to the side for now because they're not pertinent to the question you asked, Darius, which is around what should we be doing to turn first-time buyers into repeat buyers, wasn't it? I think I'm right in saying. Yeah, so turning first-time buyers into repeat buyers starts right from the very, very beginning of your first interaction with that person, because you want to be building trust, building emotional connection with them throughout their first purchase process. So all those emotional triggers, social proof, doing what you say you will, hugely important, and being consistent throughout that as well. Then the next, so we've kind of got their growing relationship with you. That's the first thing. Secondly, we've got their actual purchase experience. Did the product arrive without too many issues? Did the product arrive and they liked it? Did the product arrive and the unboxing experience was at least okay, if not exciting? You know, are you putting postcards in there? Are you putting special gifts in there? What are you doing to make that process interesting to the customer? So as they're going to remember it, so as they're going to feel and it's going to build on all those brilliant messages you've told them throughout. And again, keep it consistent. If there's key things you've been talking about throughout, you know, if you're a sustainable brand, don't suddenly put a load of plastic packaging in the box. Don't give them some plastic knickknacks as a free gift, because that just isn't going to fit with a sustainable brand identity. Then, how do we then get them to buy again? Well, there's going to be different ways to do this from business to business because of how frequently someone's likely to buy from you. So to take an extreme example, once upon a time, I did some work for a company who sell doormats. Here in the UK, the average house has 1.4 doors. Therefore, most people are not going to buy more than one doormat. So for them, turning people into repeat buyers, they get a small fraction who would buy a second doormat, but mostly for them, it was about spreading the word to other people and getting the social proof back in that they could use to spread the word to other people. So you've got that extreme. Then you've got businesses who will aim to get a second purchase immediately, because they know that customers buy for the first time to test them out, to see the quality of the product, see the quality of the delivery, and that therefore their best opportunity to get them to buy again is the second they open that. So if you find when you open someone's parcel that there's an offer in there, a postcard offer or something in there saying free P&P on your next order or 10% off your next order, that's a business who reckon they can convert you as soon as that first parcel arrives. And then you've got everything in between. So in terms of marketing methods, I'd make sure you've got your email working well, because that's obviously a key channel for working with your customers. So great post-purchase sequence, great repeat buy sequences. I would also make sure that when you're doing your pixeling with your ads, that you are potentially showing different messages to people who have bought from you once already, because you still need to have all those trust and all that humanity going through it. There are different messages you might put to them and different offers you might put in front of them as well. Does that answer your question, Darius?
Yeah, that definitely answers the question. Maybe, what stems from the first question is, how do you measure the performance each of these stages? Because the marketing channels differs and the tools, etc. Maybe there are some averages that you should be aiming for.
I'm a personal hater of benchmarks, because the only real benchmark you've got is against yourself, because everyone out there's doing something different. They've all got different customer bases, different products, and so forth. So I hate benchmarks. So I'm not going to give you any benchmarks. But I'm really glad you asked me the question of how should we model our performance across the Customer Masterplan model. Because the point of this model is to help you focus on where you should really be expending your effort. You know, where are you weakest? Where's the biggest opportunity for you right now? And then to go in there. So, you know, if your big problem is getting people to the website in the first place, stage one, the world to visitors, then what you should be doing is, right, what can I do in stage one to improve my performance? Is it ads? Is it social? Is it SEO? Is it, you know, what is it? What's the best thing I could do? And obviously, to work out where you should focus, you've got to know how you're performing. And put simply, it's your drop-offs. It's a very simple funnel. It's about going, how many people have we had on the website? How many inquirers have we currently got in that same time frame? So usually I'd look at this on a month or a quarter, depending on the size of the business. So how many people did we get to the website in that time period? How many people did we get signed up to our email list in that time period? How many first-time buyers? How many repeat buyers? How many regular buyers? The world, little bit harder to calculate. But you can start using things like engagements on your key marketing channels to give you an idea there with your ads and with your social. That will give you a benchmark, and you can get most of this data you can get going back in time. So I'd look back over the past calendar year, which will give you an idea of how you were doing last Q1, last Q2, last Q3, last Q4. Obviously, this year's been a bit weird, but you'll get an idea of what your percentages are, and the percentages may well not have changed that much. And that will give you an idea of where are the drop-offs happening, where are things not working so well.
Okay, that's interesting. And it could be very well related to what I always, also like to remind our own clients is 5 whys method. Not sure if you heard about it. It's coming from, I think it originated in production lines and is widely used in like lean methodology, etc. So the 5 whys is basically kind of like asking the why at least 5 times, sometimes even more. So for example, if you have, let's say, problem, hey, my website is converting poorly, right? So you ask question why? Most likely, because website is not pleasant, it's hard to use, etc. Why? Because I got a bad designer to do it. Why? Because I tried to cheap out on it, right? And this is kind of you dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And usually by why 5, 6, 7, you kind of able to find the root cause. By changing the thinking this way around, usually you're able to find a relatively good solution quickly. And this kind of relates to, finding the bottleneck and solving it. So if e-commerce is not performing well, you can use the same principle. Why it's not performing well? Is it conversion rate? Is it add to cart, to initiate checkout to purchase? Or is it just like a traffic problem, right? Where you're not able to acquire enough traffic. And then why you're not able to acquire enough traffic? Basically, the depth is huge and super powerful.
And it's never ending, because that's the thing about keep optimizing, is it's both a reminder that you have to keep optimizing, but it's also a reminder that nothing in this world is ever finished. Nothing in e-commerce is ever finished. So you've got to get it out there, you've got to get it testing, and then you can tweak and improve.
Okay, so just to summarize this call, what kind of, maybe 3 top advices you would give to e-commerce owners to summarize everything that you have talked about today?
Well, first off, I would make sure you know where you should be focusing your effort, especially at the moment. A lot of businesses have had a huge peak and surge in sales earlier this year. You really should be working to convert those people into long-term customers. But if you've not experienced that, then you probably need to be focusing down at the beginning and getting that traffic into your business. So make sure you're focusing where you should be focusing. Secondly, don't write off any marketing methods because you tried it once and it didn't work. Unless you hired the world's expert and you are 100% confident you did the best possible implementation you could, then you're allowed to get out of jail free card on that one. Otherwise, the chances are you need to try a different strategy. These things are evolving the whole time. And thirdly, optimize. Please, if you take one message from this, please optimize your marketing. It's so sad to see accounts that have been, ad accounts in particular, have been turned on and nothing's ever been done to them, or email campaigns where you just send the same thing to everyone who ever subscribed every single week, please optimize. So that would be my 3 things.
So hey, Chloe, maybe you could talk people more a little bit how we could find you and learn more about your principles and core ideas, maybe where we could find your book.
Cool, thanks, Darius. Oh, principles. I'm not sure I've ever written them down. That's definitely something that should be on the website, isn't it? The principles, especially as we've been talking about humanity the whole of today's call as well. Note to self. Right, you can find everything I'm up to at ecommercemasterplan.com. The podcast available on Apple, Spotify, etc., and the books you'll find on Amazon. But ecommercemasterplan.com is the easiest place to find all the ways to get in contact with me and everything I'm up to.
Okay, perfect. And all the links will be in the description below this article. So cheers, guys.